This is the news on 92.3 Nigeria Info.
Mental health is real. Seek help. End the stigma. On the news this evening, Rivers Chief Judge grants pardon to 21 inmates to decongest correctional center. Court frees police inspector accused of kidnapping. Analyst calls for inclusion of independent candidacy in constitutional review. Nel Fund clocks one disburses over 73.2 billion naira loans to over 396,000 students. FEC begins special meeting in honor of late President Buhari. On the foreign scene, fire destroys 5-story shopping center, kills dozen in Iraq. I am Kaladakoru Batubo. Good evening. Now the news in detail. As part of measures to decongest the correctional center in Rivers State, the Chief Judge of the state, Justice Simeon Chibuzo Amadi, has granted pardon to 21 inmates at the Port Harcourt Correctional Center. Our correspondent reports that those granted pardon were standing trial for murder and armed robbery and have been in the correctional facility for over 6 years without a case file. Speaking during the jail delivery exercise, Justice Chibuzo Amadi urged the police to ensure that suspects are properly investigated before charging them to court. The Chief Judge also encouraged the inmates to be of good conduct as they return into the society.
You'll be released today. The only thing you can do for humanity is to go and change. That thing that led you to be arrested by police, taken to court, and you find yourself in Port Harcourt Custodial Center. You should refrain from it. Change. If you are not doing anything in Port Harcourt, if you know you don't have any means of livelihood, why not go back to your village so that there will not be temptation for you to get yourself involved in another kidnapping or anything that will bring you back here.
In his address, the controller of Port Harcourt Correctional Center, Felix Madumere, commended the judge for his effort to decongest the facilities, but blamed the police and DPP for the congestion of the correctional center. Correspondent Emeka Otuka reports that Controller Madumere also expressed concern that Port Harcourt Correctional Facility with 1,800 capacity is currently housing over 2,500 inmates. In another development, the State High Court in Port Harcourt has discharged and acquitted Inspector Atwasen Luke, who was standing trial for the alleged kidnapping of one Thomas Odion in Oigbo, River State, in May 2023. Delivering judgment, the trial judge, Justice I. Wadi, ruled that the prosecution failed to prove beyond reasonable doubt that Inspector Luke committed the offense. Justice Wodi held that there was no eyewitness testimony or material evidence linking the defendant to the crime. The court also noted that the alleged phone found at the crime scene, which formed a key part of the prosecution's case, was neither presented in court nor cited by the prosecuting team. As you may know, Inspector Twasen Luke, who was said to be serving as an oddly to the former chairman of Andoni local government area was arrested after his mobile phone was allegedly found at the scene of the incident. Counsel to the defendant, Obadiah Charles Mbaba, spoke to our correspondent, Emeka Otuka, shortly after the judgment.
Today, the High Court of Rivers State delivered judgments discharging and acquitting the defendant. However, it is very unfortunate that the Nigerian police that ought to do due diligence in the course of investigation did a very shabby investigation, particularly as it concerns the said defendant who was an inspector of police at the time the said allegation was raised. Today, the court has shown that he is innocent of the allegation of kidnapping. But the question now is, how can a man who was accused innocent be compensated? He stood trial for almost 2 years, and he was also detained by the police before bringing him to court for almost 8 months. A police officer being treated like a common criminal.
Meanwhile, the prosecution counsel declined to comment. Public affairs analyst Obiwan Akanwa says the issue of independent candidacy should be included in the upcoming constitutional review at the National Assembly. Mr. Akanwa made the call following the resignation of Atiku Abubakar from the PDP and the recent wave of defections by politicians. He told our correspondent, Soibi Oruwari, that many Nigerian politicians switch parties easily because the political parties have no clear ideology to guide their actions.
If the issue of independent candidature is given that prime prominence, the attention it deserves, it will go a very long way in addressing this issue of mass defection, because a lot of unpopular politicians in Nigeria muzzle themselves into power via party vehicles. But when such a independent candidature provision is included into the constitution, it will make it difficult for those who are unpopular among the people to come out and run for elective positions.
Mr. Akwanwa, however, expressed concern that the current political leaders may block independent candidacy because they benefit from jumping from one party to another without facing any consequences during elections.
Ordinarily, in an ideal society, we would have been looking out for persons of credible and impeccable characters who can stand before the people and make promises and fulfill such promises. It is only through independent candidature system that we can get it. The Nigerian politicians are very crafty, especially those in leadership position, because they know that as soon as this independent candidacy issue sells, that it will throw a whole lot of them overboard, and they wouldn't be relevant any longer, because independent candidacy has a lot to do with popularity, and your popularity must be tied to your character, to your personality.
We'll go for a quick break, but still to come, FEC begins special meeting in honor of late President Buhari. To stay tuned, we'll be right back. Some key players in the oil and gas sector have shared mixed reactions to Dangote's plan to start selling cooking gas directly to consumers. The national president of the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, Abubakar Maigandi, says the move will not affect his members negatively. He told our correspondent, Soibi Oruwari, that direct sales by Dangote will still allow marketers like his members to be involved and may even encourage more investment in cooking gas supply. Mr. Maigandi also welcomed the plan to privatize the country's refineries, urging the government to include IPMAN members in the bidding process.
it's a good thing because there is no way we can be spending money, no progress. We independent petroleum marketers, we are supporting that. If you look, the way these refineries are, government is spending serious amount of these refineries. Nobody is happy about it. So if they sell it to the Nigerians, it's good and fine because it's still Nigerians. The only thing we want to be part of the bidding when they are going to sell, so that we too independent petroleum marketers, we may have one refinery. We too, we appreciate to be part of the people who are going to buy the place.
Meanwhile, former chairman of Newpeng Port Harcourt branch, Godwin Aruba, says privatizing Nigeria's refineries is long overdue. He also called for more private refineries and better regulation to keep marketers in check.
Regulatory agencies cannot do much in a monopolized environment. However, the regulatory agencies can do their job more effectively in a competitive environment. I know when there's a monopoly. When there's a monopoly, it is very difficult for regulatory agencies to function adequately. You regulate competitors when they are doing things that you think is shady, but they can operate more effectively in an environment where there's competition. What is required is to have other people compete with Dangote. That way, both the price and the standard of the product will be maintained. But as it is today, whatever Dangote gives us is what we take, whether we like it or not, because there's no alternative.
The national spokesperson of Petran, Joseph Obele, had a different view. He warned that Dangote's direct sales strategy could lead to job losses. Recall that Dangote recently announced plans to crash the price of cooking gas. He said his company will begin selling directly to consumers if distributors refuse to lower prices. The federal government is holding an expanded special session of the Federal Executive Council in honor of the late former President Muhammadu Buhari. The expanded meeting is part of a series of national mourning activities approved by President Bola Tinubu following Buhari's passing. The special FEC session, which started at 5 p.m. at the council chambers of the presidential villa in Abuja, is attended by the Vice President Kashim Shettima, President of the Senate Godswill Akpabio, Speaker of the House of Representatives Tajuddin Abbas, ministers and other top government officials. The Defense Headquarters (ZHQ) says troops of Operation Safe Haven rejected a bribe of 13.7 million naira offered by terrorists during an operation along the Jos Sanga Road in Plateau. The Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Marcus Kangie, disclosed this while briefing journalists on military operations across the country in Abuja today. Kangie said the troops had responded to a distress call about terrorist activities when they intercepted two terrorists who attempted to bribe them with 13.7 million naira. The Nigerian Education Loan Fund, NEL says it has disbursed over 73.2 billion naira in interest-free loans to 396,252 students across Nigeria's 36 states and the FCT. NEL Managing Director Akintunde Soya said this in Abuja today on the progress made 1 year after the inauguration of the initiative. He said a total of 645,692 loan applications had been received, with 94% processed from 206 tertiary institutions nationwide. He described the program as a product of political will aimed at rescuing undergraduates at risk of dropping out due to financial constraints. Sawyer said the agency is developing a centralized job portal to give beneficiaries early access to employment opportunities in Nigeria and abroad, although it does not guarantee jobs. We'll go for another commercial break. And now on the foreign scene, a fire that tore through a 5-story shopping center in the eastern Iraqi city of Kut has left at least 61 dead. The blaze at the mall, which opened 7 days ago, broke out on Wednesday night and has since been brought under control. Videos posted on social media showed firefighters rescuing people from the mall's roof, but state media reported that many were still missing. A quick recap on the news this evening. You heard Rivers Chief George Simeon Amadi has granted pardon to inmates to Decongest Correctional Center. Court in Port Harcourt has freed a police inspector who is accused of kidnapping. Analyst Obi-Wan Akanwa has called for an inclusion of independent candidacy in constitutional review. Nelfund has clocked one and disbursed over 73.2 billion naira loans to over 300,000 students. The Federal Executive Council is holding a special meeting in honor of late President Buhari. On the foreign scene, fire has destroyed a 5-story shopping center and killed 61 people in Iraq. The news was edited by Onyekachi Wonsu. To reach the news team, send an SMS or WhatsApp to 0808 721 7215. I am Kaladakoru Batubo. Good evening.